Hello, everyone. Sorry for the shaking around. This is the East Coast Economic Update for June the 4th, 2010. This is just my update on the, excuse me while I adjust the camera, on the non-farm payrolls. Hooray, 432,000 jobs created. Only problem is that 411,000 of them are all census jobs, temporary jobs. So, unfortunately, when you take out the birth-death model, we have like a 200 to 250,000 loss. So the unemployment rate really should be 10.1, 10.2, like I had suggested on Wednesday. It amazes me, and I have to just say that out of anger, the chutzpah, that the cojones that this administration has by saying that the recovery is on because they created temporary jobs for census takers. Now these jobs are going to be over in less than 6 months, maybe 9 months. And then what? Now you're going to have let's see. So far I'm thinking 600,000 jobs were created over the last 3 months. All of them, or most of them, were created by either the Census Bureau or the birth-death model. And if you don't know what the birth-death model is, basically they guess that somebody had started a business after somebody closed the business, and they assume that they just didn't get the new payroll from these people yet, the new jobs that were created. This is imaginary, by the way, completely imaginary. So they just created 200,000 jobs. 57,000 jobs from this birth-death model that does not exist. When you have weekly unemployment payrolls at 432 to 500,000 and ADT unemployment levels at 500,000 or greater. So between the government and between the actual numbers from ADT and the actual weekly numbers from the government, if you want to call them actual, you have primarily a bunch of you got about 600,000. I'm guesstimating because they're doing such a great job at guesstimating. You have 600,000 jobs being lost if you average out between ADT and the weekly unemployment rate, and probably somewhere between 15 and 24 million people who have been unemployed for more than 6 months. And those people are not getting extended benefits from their emergency unemployment from the federal government yet, because Congress, because everything's going so well, Congress took off until June the 7th. So, and that means they're going to come back to work on Monday after sunning their asses somewhere. So this is amazing. This is just so blatant, because even the Bloomberg article says halfway down the thing that 90% of those jobs that were created out of the 432,000 jobs that they said that they created in the U3 number were created by the Census Bureau. And you wonder why the Dow is down 230 points, because they're not reading the headlines anymore. The investors are not reading the headlines; they're reading the body of the work, because they know that this administration and the prior administration have been futzing with the numbers. So this is a very critical thing, because they're telling people the recovery's in, go get a job, and it isn't in. It has been falsely created by the government, and it's a temporary business. It's a temporary job. It would be one thing, and I'm not a big fan of government, created jobs, but it'd be one thing if the government was creating permanent jobs until the economy turned around. But it's not. And that brings me to another point, which is they gave billions and in some cases trillions of dollars to banks. Not tax incentives for their payroll, not tax write-offs if they stayed in business. They gave them cash. If they gave people cash to start production, to start industries, because we have nothing. If they gave them $24 trillion, which is what the Federal Reserve gave the banks, to keep them propped up, and they're still holding on to it, and they're not making loans, boys and girls. We know this. If we took that $24 trillion and gave it to people who could actually make stuff, physical stuff, yes, then the recovery would be in, because they would have to hire people to make the stuff, and they would have to, and there would be, and there would be some stability in the market. I mean, in the mainstream market, in the Main Street market, not Wall Street, in that market, until people are working again, there will never, ever be a recovery. It's happening in Europe now. We had 20 years of where unemployment sat between 8 and 12% in most of Europe, and now they have reached the point of no return. They don't even have money to pay people to stay on unemployment, what they call the dole, basically glorified welfare, because they could not, they can't sustain it because they're not creating anything. And the only reason why Germany is doing better than average is because they have an industrial base. They have an industrial base, ladies and gentlemen. We have nothing. 70%. Get this. I can't make it more clear, because I say this to people who look at me and say, when I go visit friends and stuff, I say, get this. 70% of our GDP is not tires, cars, shirts, shoes, whatever. 70% of our GDP is us spending credit card money on stuff. 70%. This is not happening anymore. The resilient consumer is not producing debt. So what we need now is we need an American citizen to start making stuff, and we need to start buy American for real. So I leave you with those thoughts, and of course the article in Bloomberg talking about how wonderful the 432,000 U3 number was, which is 90% of the Census Bureau. God. Peace, folks, and for those of you who observe, good Shabbos.